Well, today marks the 21st anniversary of Pokemon's release, and I figured because I wanted to do this video for a very long time, but I actually decided I'm going to finally do a video talking about my history of Pokemon. And of course, if you don't remember what I did for my 20th anniversary last year, I did a timeline video of all the games I've played, and I also did my funnest creation too, was I did a 20th anniversary monster truck event where each game at that point included Z, which before Sun and Moon were announced, I thought was going to be Z for the next game. Had an event with each truck in it, so go check both of them out. That's going to be sweet too. But now, oh boy, this is going to be a long ass video, but time to get to work explaining my history of Pokemon. So, of course, as we all know, Pokemon first came here to the West in September 1998. Now, I was four when it came out, so I was way too young to be in the demographic to play, not even comprehend anything. Back then, I could only comprehend computers, for crying out loud. But once I got a little bit older to comprehend gaming on like the consoles, like the 64 and PS1, and of course Game Boy, which I would discover later soon, I actually had a kind of a more unique story how I found Pokemon out, because there's probably everyone probably know Pokemon three different ways. Either they saw it on TV, the anime on TV, they had friends that knew about it, or played it, or they saw advertisement or something like that for it. None of that really happened for me. I did not watch the anime because it aired on Kids WB, and I didn't watch that back then. I only watched Cartoon Network. I had no friends that played it. Matter of fact, none of my friends in school had Game Boys because I lived in such a poor area, and I never saw advertisement stuff for it either. And to be honest, I actually don't quite remember how I got into Pokemon, but I'm going to try my best to remember. So, what I think happened was, my childhood friend Terrell, who you're going to hear a lot of him in this video too, because he's really important to this. Me and my parents and him went to, I think it was a Circuit City, for my parents need I think it was ink cartridges for a printer, and of course, me and Terrell went off to the VHS area too to look at VHS tapes and stuff back then. And as we were looking through them, he came across something that the first time I ever heard of, Pokemon. Because remember back then, they did the episodes of the anime on VHS. Matter of fact, still got back there in that closet somewhere, and probably some out in the other room. But he came up to me and showed one of the tapes to me, and he said, "Hey, I know this series, Pokemon, and I think you would like it. It's pretty cool." So I'm looking at this VHS cover, and I see mostly like animal stuff on like, that's not really like my thing, because back then, there was only two things that I gave two fucks about. Trains, and of course, as you all know, monster trucks, the most greatest thing ever created. So I didn't think I was going to enjoy it like he thinks, but he insisted, "Nah man, you're going to like this, trust me." So I relented. We got one. We went back, and holy shit, I did enjoy very, very, very much. So that's how I think I finally found out about Pokemon. And of course, the first game I did was Yellow. Now, the earliest I could have played was October 1999 when it first came out, and the latest was April 2000, which you're going to find out the reason why in a bit. But, I think the actual date was probably somewhere in February or March 2000. And I remember when I first got Yellow, they had, I can't remember, Toys R Us, Best Buy, GameStop or something. They had a special Pikachu Game Boy that was bundled with a Pokemon game at the time. So that's why my first Game Boy was that Pikachu Game Boy too. So Yellow, like I said, is the first game, and I got a lot of funny things to say about that. So, of course, Pikachu was the first star I picked. I actually even remember the first five I caught. Nidoran Male, Mankey, Rattata, Caterpie, and Manapod. Yes, caught Caterpie and a Manapod because I didn't understand evolution and shit back then. I didn't even understand anything about the game. All I knew was Pikachu do Thunderbolt, one-hit knockout, and go on. I caught all of them, and I never used them once in battle. That's how stupid I was back then. But there was three really funny things that happened, which are so stupid now. But look at me back then, but looking back on them, it's really funny. The first one was when I went to battle Brock, because I only used Pikachu and just used Thundershock all the time. And when I battled him, I sent Pikachu out, of course against the Geodude, and I was like, Thundershock. Wait, why ain't it working? Why does it not affected it? And I kept doing, Geodude kept doing tackle, doing little damage, and I kept doing Thundershock. Why the fuck's that Thundershock not working? It was working before, because I did not understand the type disadvantages and stuff back then. Didn't know that. Hey, dumb fuck, electric doesn't work on ground. And I think Pikachu might have known Quick Attack by then, because it was over level 10 plus already. But of course I did not. If it did know Quick Attack, I did not use it. I'm serious when I say this. I only did Thundershock. And of course I did have Nidoran, Male, and Mankey on the team that could have known Double Kick, but I never used them. I'm serious. When I caught them, I never used them. That's how stupid I was back then. And another really silly thing was sometime after that, because I couldn't beat him, I would always turn off the game and restart before battling him again. I decided one time to go to the PC, heal up, and I decided to explore the PC, and I found out that spot where you can do link trades and battles and stuff like that. And I talked to the person from it to find out what it was, and they said, "Oh, you can link up with your friend and do trades and battles." Then, oh Jesus, so stupid. But after watching the anime so much on the VSS tapes, I thought Brock and Misty was gonna be involved in it. Oh, I like the anime too, but of course, being sent to the games, that doesn't actually happen. But that was just a really silly thing that happened. But the final silly thing was actually probably more of an indicator when I first started playing. It was me and my parents at Terrell once again went to some mall, and I think it was in Owens Mills, if you all know what I'm talking about, in Maryland. And they were looking for something, but me and Terrell went to I think it was some sort of toy store there, and they had one of those display consoles where you could play games on, and it was the 64. Of course, I love that baby so much. But the game they had on display was Stadium. I remember when Terrell found it, we were so excited. We played that thing for an hour playing Pokemon on fucking 64. Seeing them in all 3D models and stuff. That was so cool. And we finally got Stadium that night. And when we came back, we played it all night. I think we actually beat half of the Poke Cup and Prime Cup in one night. That was so fun. But of course, since that came out leap year 2000, it had to have been probably around March 2000 when we first played it, because another really funny thing was, I'm finally getting to, because remember, Stadium, when it came out, it came with that link transfer pack which allowed you to plug in red, blue, and yellow. And of course, when Stadium 2 came out, gold, silver, and crystal, it allowed you to add your Pokemon into the game. And you could it also came with an emulator to play red, and blue, and yellow on the TV too, which is really cool. But when I found I can actually do that, I transferred my Pokemon over from yellow, and I decided I'm gonna challenge the Prime Cup with my own Pokemon, and they're gonna kick fucking ass like they did in the game. Now, of course, for all of you that don't remember, Prime Cup is everyone's at level 100. Pikachu was my strongest, but only level 10 plus. Everyone else was whatever level they were when I caught, under 10 at least. So I think you're gonna know where this is coming. I go out with set out Pikachu. One of the first battles in the Prime Cup is out Jigglypuff. I'm like, I'm gonna kick this Jigglypuff's ass. Okay, it's going up first. Holy shit! It took Pikachu out in one hit. What the hell? And it happened I did the battle 5 different times over and over again, and every time it was the exact same result. Well, I mean, what the fuck? Why is Pikachu going down one hit? You never did that hit before. Because I didn't understand the levels back then. I didn't even pay attention. Pikachu grew to level 6 and 7 and whatever. That never even came across my mind as a kid. I didn't understand it. But I got so pissed off about it, I said, fucking fruit. Well, not fruit because the game was in there. Put the controller down, turn the 64 off, put the VCR on to go watch the recording of World Finals 1, which just aired like the other day, so that's why I put the date of the latest I could have played Yellow was like April 2000, since World Finals 1 was late into March 2000. But, yeah, that's my really funny story at the beginning of how I got into Pokemon. Alright, so after that, the next game was Silver in November 2000. And that's a funny thing too, because that was at the same Circuit City that we went to for Yellow like a year later. I mean, the year before. So that when I first found out about Pokemon, so that's kind of a funny coincidence. And it was sometime in November 2000, but I think it was right around Thanksgiving, because on Thanksgiving we always go to my father's parents' place, and I remember in the living room going through Ilex Forest. So it had to have been very soon. Of course, I picked Chikorita in that first game for Silver because it was so fucking cute. But other than that, there wasn't really anything special to talk about for that one. And then the next up was Crystal, and that was in July 2001. That was the first series I actually saw ads for, and I remember them too because my father came and told me about it one time. And it was actually the first game of what me and Tro would do is, since he was the stereotypical black kid in the country that was poor as fuck, I would get both games. He would play one, I would play the other, but since this was only one game in Crystal, we actually shared the game together, and he actually got to pick the starter Totodile, which we agreed on. And mostly he played the game, I played parts of it, but I remember one little interesting, like, funny thing is, we fucking went through the same problem probably like everyone else, but we couldn't fucking beat Whitney's ass. And I remember one time, it was, I think in February 2002, when we were going through, a Burger King drive-thru, I was trying to battle Whitney, and, before the battle, we actually got Totodile to become a Feraligatr. That's right, we had a level 30 Feraligatr, while still trying to get the third badge. And boy, once Totodile evolved, it became the major factor when we finally beat Whitney. And of course, that game was actually the first one we actually completed too. So that was kind of an interesting thing, because I remember going through like Kanto and stuff. I don't think we ever fully beat the game, but boy, it was fun actually playing that experience again. But yeah, I think that was the first game we ever beat, because I never beat Silver back then. And Yellow, I eventually did a new game on Yellow, and I eventually got like really far. I actually made it all the way to the Elite Four, where I got my fucking ass kicked. And I figured, I haven't gotten Articuno yet. I'll go back and get it. And unfortunately, I didn't save before I battled, so not only did I not be able to get Articuno, but I unfortunately got lost in the game, and lost in Seafoam Islands, and no matter what I did, I could not get out. So I had to unfortunately do a new game, which really was sad. Probably should have did that for Yellow, but forgot about it till just now. And then after that was Red, which was in August 2001, and I picked Bulbasaur up to start that one, and holy shit, it was really funny because, like, I've mentioned this story before, but back then, all the way up until, like, 2009, I would always only use the strongest in terms of levels, and since usually the starters at level 5, usually the strongest for a while, the starter would almost always be in battle at first, if you get what I'm saying, because I would always have the strongest lead the party, no matter what, basically. Even if it had type disadvantage, I keep the strongest out. So basically, the star would always be the strongest. And oh boy, I guess maybe I should try this one time, see if it's possible. But I actually had that Bulbasaur be a Venusaur before I even made it to St. Anne. Think about that. Level 32? By the time I get to the St. Anne, jeez. I think actually it was like level 28 while I was going through Nugget Bridge, which even I still find hard to believe. Even if I battled all the trainers and didn't like share it, have any switches to turn around and give someone else a turn to battle, I still don't think I would get that much EXP to get to 28 by then, but somehow I did it. That was just unbelievable. And of course, another really interesting thing about Red is, Red, I think, influenced one of my worst nightmares in my life. It was still in August 2001, as me and my parents went down to Ocean Pines. Hey, that's where we live now, to visit my mother's parents who used to live down here, like summer vacation. And one night, when I was in bed with my parents, I could have swore I was awake, but I kept seeing bugs everywhere. And I mean like all kinds of bugs, and these weren't like regular bugs. These bugs were like something from like hundreds of millions of years ago when like the bugs were like humongous because of the more oxygen in the atmosphere, but like these were like ridiculously huge bugs and shit like that. And every time I kept waking up, nothing was there. But as soon as I closed my eyes, they were back to get me. And matter of fact, at one point in the dream, the point of view went outside from like looking down from like an angle from like a helicopter I guess say in my grandparents' house. All of a sudden there'd be this gigantic like centipede that's like all the way out to the road, like halfway on top of the house, trying to bite through the roof to get me. I mean, yeah, that sounds like really fucked up, but I remember playing Red a lot that day and going through like Viridian Force because I was beginning to play Red, so perhaps that could have influenced the dream, but that was a really fucked up night. All thanks probably to Pokemon. And then next up on the list was Blue, which was Christmas Day 2002. And of course, picked Squirrel for that one. And I actually had my father film me playing for like all the way up to I think Viridian City. And all of our camcorder tapes are in there. And maybe it's in one of those tapes of me on that Christmas day, but good luck going through all that shit. There's like over dozens and dozens of videotapes in there. And who knows, they might have gotten them over-taped by then. And then after that, we finally got to Gen 3 with Ruby and Sapphire, which also has another interesting story itself, as I explained playing it. But Ruby and Sapphire I actually found out back in November 2002, or sometime in December. It was actually before Got Blue, actually, because it was in one of those game magazines, and Ruby and Sapphire was the first game I ever found out that Pokemon originated in Japan. I never knew that. It didn't even matter to me where it came from. All I knew is, it's a great game! But I always wondered where the hell it came from. But then when I found out where it came from, and I found that they were actually playing Ruby and Sapphire before me and my fellow Americans, I got really, really pissed. I was like, what the fuck? Why is it that they can play it before us? And then I would later find out that the Europeans and Australians had to wait even more longer than us Americans. Like, that's bullshit. That's not fair. We should have it on the same day as they. And of course, it would be like another decade before that finally happened. Although, unfortunately, for the Europeans, the last 2 sets of games, you had to wait like a week. So that's bullshit too. That's got to be fixed to go back to what it was for X and Y when it was all released on the same day. But of course, Ruby and Sapphire was actually, I think, the first game I actually pre-ordered too. March 2003 when it came out. It released on the same week as me and my parents were going to go out to Las Vegas for World Finals 4. And the day before, I think it released the day before we were going to fly out there, my mother picked them up. I actually was taking a nap the entire day. When I finally got it, I did Ruby first, and I picked Mudkip accidentally because, remember, I was in that game, you had to save Birch from the Poochyena, and I didn't think that was the process to pick the starter. I thought it was just to save him and then later on pick the starter. So I just picked Mudkip because I thought it was like probably the best shot. It looked like the strongest. It would probably beat Poochyena. I didn't think it was gonna be the starter I picked. But anyways, I remember actually having Marshtomp right after I beat Roxanne too. It evolved right then and there too. That was really interesting. And one thing that really pissed me off about Ruby and Sapphire first was that Gen 1, Gen 2 Pokemon there. I thought it was gonna hopefully be only brand new Pokemon. So that kind of got a little annoying later on. And of course, as we all know, Gen 3 you couldn't connect at all with Gen 1, 2 until later on with hacks, save editors online and stuff like that. So that was also pretty annoying. That's why Gen 3 is so disliked compared to the other generations. But then that next morning, because remember the anime aired the first episode in Hoenn like 6 months beforehand when it was supposed to actually air. So and I saw it that same day, I think it was, when it released the games or something like that. So I actually saw the anime with May taking the Torchic, so I actually on Sapphire I actually played as May and took Torchic to replicate that too. And I started that game as we were in BWI Airport, waiting for a flight to fly out to Vegas. And in fact, that whole entire flight, until the batteries died, unfortunately, I played Sapphire and Ruby too. And that was pretty fun. That was a really fun week, playing Ruby and Sapphire, and then watching World Finals 4. That was really cool too. And then, of course, unfortunately, when I was going through that cave where Team Magma and Aqua hide before they get the submarine, where you get the Master Ball, I unfortunately on Sapphire, Ruby got stuck in there. I could never get out, so that really sucked too. Because I actually had Swampert too, as it evolved as we were walking through the Excalibur. And man, oh my god, that Swampert was so strong. It must have really good IVs, like it was unstoppable, but unfortunately I had to lose it. Oh, that was a terrible, unfortunate accident for that week at Vegas, but that was one hell of a week. And it was later on that fall when me and Terrell finally started to do the, he plays one game, I play the other game, and we actually flipped the games, because after I came back, I did Ruby, he did Sapphire, but that fall when we went up to Outdoor World in Pennsylvania, he went to Ruby and I did Sapphire. I remember even first time playing Sapphire. That was the first time I played Sapphire since that time in Vegas. And I actually remember picking Trico for that one. Ooh, boy, that one was a strong one too. And then after that, it was Fire Red and Leaf Green. That was September 2004. And ho boy, me and Terrell were so excited about that they finally did the first remake for Canada. But I did Leaf Green. I didn't play Fire Red till like the winter of 2011 for crying out loud. But that game I picked Squirtle, and holy shit, it must have been one with more good stats because that thing was like unstoppable pretty much. But then when and then I was really annoyed with the addition of Seviallons, but I did forgive it once they gave us the option to have that Hyper Beam equivalent move for the stars, because holy shit, once that Blastoise new Hydrokin, win Elite Four was pretty damn easy after that. But then after that it was Emerald, which was made 2005. And I started with Trico on that one. And there's two funny things about that. One, that Trico, well actually it was a Grovyle at this point. Once it learned the Leaf Blade, it became unstoppable. Literally every move was a one-hit KO, even from Pokemon that had a resistance to it. It was like really strange. It was quite impressive too. Maybe it had because remember back then, since Leaf Blade was a grass type move, it was special. So probably Grovyle and Sceptile must have really good special IV and stuff like that. So that was pretty nice too. And also, Sceptile, I still actually have on one in his tray of memory cards. It got a couple GameCube memory cards in here. It's in here somewhere. So it would be nice to be able to find it, so maybe actually use it again for all of you to see. And it was Mad Sceptile is one of maybe 2, 3, 4 Pokemon that I legitimately trained all the way up to level 100 without any action replay or sorts. So that it was actually the first one too. It took like 2 years or 4 years to do because it was so satisfying. Oh boy, so it would be nice to get find the memory card so I can show you all him. Alright, then we get to Gen 4 with Diamond Pearl, of course. And Diamond Pearl was the first game series that I actually had good information about when it was out in Japan too, because I actually found out about Diamond Pearl in December 2006, because if I remember correctly, Pokemon USA, I think it was the American like subsidy part of Pokemon. I don't think they actually announced Diamond Pearl till like late January, so I knew about Diamond Pearl like a month or two ahead before probably a lot of probably the younger kids and stuff. And I was strongly thinking about actually importing Diamond Pearl because I didn't feel like waiting. I hated waiting very much, but there was a couple problems that came in the way. The language barrier, of course, the cost, but more importantly, would it work, because I knew about region lock. Now, of course, the language barrier is not really that big of a deal, except when it comes to the moves. Now, Diamond Pearl, because by Diamond Pearl, when you learn a new move, it actually showed you the color and the power of each move, so it made it much more easier to comprehend. Although I'm sure the physical special split happened that generation, that probably would throw me off tremendously. And of course, I would have the internet too if you had problems with where to go. The cost, it's really not that much more. And of course, the length, region locking is not that big of a deal at all. No issue at all for DS and the DS Lite, remember. But I decided, I don't know about it. I'm not going to risk it, so I decided to not import Diamond Pearl. And I waited, like all of us, till late April 2007. I played Pearl instead as Terrell did Diamond. And I started off with Turtwig, and holy shit, he led the way for the entire game. Because I was still doing that strategy of having only the strongest on the team at all the times. And since Turtwig was the strongest at the very beginning, he was the leader from the entire game to the end. And I actually beat the Elite Four in 2 weeks, I believe. And it was on one try, even though I was like a good 10, maybe I was a good like 10, almost 20 level weaker than Cynthia too. So that was quite impressive that I was able to beat her for such a major weakness, because I had to waste a shit ton of revives and full restores and all that stuff. And then it was Platinum after that, which again I still did not decide to import, so I waited for all of us Americans until March 2009, and I decided to do Piplup for that one. And of course, here's a really fucked up embarrassing story too, because when I played, I didn't know they changed the order of the gyms, so Fantina was third, Maylene was fourth, and Crasher Wake was fifth. I thought they kept it the exact same thing, so when I got to Heartmore City, I got a whole team ready to go to battle Maylene. I'm gonna kick Maylene's ass with this really good like flying type team and stuff like that. Holy shit, I gotta battle Fantina. Oh, I'm fucked. And boy was I. Like literally nothing could stop Miss Magius with fucking Shadow Ball, Side Beam, Magical Leaf, and Confuse Ray. So I actually, by November 2009, I still never got past her. Because after the bunch of times I lost, I just gave up on Platinum for a while. But then, oh boy, this is where it gets really embarrassing. Around that same time, they had the Arceus event for the movie. And it was a level 100 Arceus that had Judgment. And of course, I think it had both Dialga Palkia and Guillotine's signature moves. Roar Time, Spatial Rain, and Shadow Force. But I think in the game, at that point, I found the Dark Plate. So I put the Dark Plate on Arceus. So now, not only is it a Dark type, but it's Dark, but now Punishment's Dark type. And I figured, even if, because I knew, since it was a gift, it was not going to listen to me. But I figured, even if it does one attack, it'll knock out Fantina easily. That Miss Magius sees just one hit's all I asked for. So I plowed for Haunter and Duskull with ease, but then Miss Magius came out, I sent Arceus out, and I'm not shitting when I say this, it never, ever attacked. Never. Even like not listen command where it might do another random move, it never did that either. It never attacked. And to make matters worse, Miss Magius, surprisingly, despite being like almost 75 levels weaker, and of course Shadow Ball being Arceus being resistant to Shadow Ball, it actually did like 1/10 HP like every single time. It was ridiculous how much HP it did, and of course Arceus got knocked out. That's pretty fucking pathetic. Would have been nice to have known beforehand that they fucking changed the gym run. I probably wouldn't have been in that shitty situation, because I still have never beat Platinum once yet. And hopefully that Platinum Nuzlocke I'm doing, that will finally not be the case much longer. But then it was Heart Gold and Soul Silver, which actually was only Heart Gold. I didn't play Soul Silver yet. That was the first game I actually did import, because I knew Heart Gold and Soul Silver, so it didn't matter to me about the language barrier. And I found out it's not that much more expensive, and the region lock I have nothing to worry about as long as I did a DS or DS Lite, which I only used by then. So I imported Heart Gold. I didn't feel like waiting, and it will give me a good opportunity to finally play Japanese and get used to it. And I start off with Cyndaquil. It was in November 2009 when I played, because I had to wait like 2 fucking weeks. Thanks, PlayAsia a lot. And of course, I plowed through the game really quickly too. And oh yeah, I can't remember. I don't think I did use Typhlosion in the final battle, but man, that was really fun to play the remake too. And of course, having a walk-in Pokemon route too, that was very sweet too. And of course, when the successful import of Heart Gold came through, that began the trend for me going into Gen 5. As we now then got into Gen 5 with Black and White, I like I said with Heart Gold, I imported that too. And matter of fact, the funny thing is, I actually managed to find the ROM for Black and White when right after the Japanese release. So I played that for like 2 weeks while I waited for Black and White to actually get delivered to the house. And man, that was one hell of an experience. Remembers all the anticipation and hype for Black and White. So I did Snivy on Black, Tepig on White, and holy shit, I plowed through both of those games really quickly. Unfortunately, I stopped playing White like halfway through the game, so I decided to do a new game on that, and I never actually beat. I beat White, on Black, by the summer of 2011. Matter of fact, I've got the whole bunch of episodes of Black and White on YouTube too, if you want to watch that too. And of course, after that, I never actually beat White until just this year. Like a couple months ago when I did that White Nuzlocke, that was the first time I fully beat the game too. And of course, that also was the first time I actually did Action Replay. And boy, that made the game much more fun and much more interesting later on as I used Action Replay to like, not break the game, but change it around like a randomizer somewhat to make the game a little bit more interesting in terms of like the encounters and stuff. And then after that was Black 2 and White 2. Shit, I remember when we all thought it was going to be like Gray, since that was the first time they broke the trend. And of course, I also imported that. And of course, the really fucked up thing was, I can't remember, I think we got it July 2nd and stuff like that. But of course, I had to be down here in Ocean Pines, because this is when my parents first finally got the house, because we had that, for all of you remember, but like that lived down in the Mid-Atlantic, where we had that humongous derecho that late June 2012 week. Oh my god, that was a disaster. So I had to wait a couple more days as it was at our house with no power while we were down here. So in that one, on Black 2 I did Oshawott, and White 2 I did Snivy. And I actually did pretty much almost a full playthrough of both games, all the way up to the Elite Four for Black 2 if you want to watch that too. Although the quality is not really good, all being on the camcorder and stuff. But of course, that was pretty fun too. The only thing that sucked about it was I never able to finish it. I've never even beat both games either. I got eventually finish them one day. But of course, as you notice in the trend by now, the stories have not been quite as exciting and more in-depth. Like it's going to get even worse as the series goes on. As we finally get into Gen 6 with X and Y. And that was finally the first series where they finally released them all around the world on the same day. And of course, since then they've not been able to do it for the Europeans. And I actually had to wait over a month to play, since didn't have the money for both games and 2 3DSs. We had to wait a shit till like Thanksgiving for that. And did Fennekin on X, Froakie on White. Y. And of course, that was really cool to finally see the models again after so long seeing it with sprites and stuff. And of course, Ami was really cool, although it was kind of annoying to have to keep doing those fucking mini games to get a bunch of Pokepuffs and stuff too. Which thankfully X and Y, Sun and Moon fixed big time. But other than that, I've never even actually beaten X and Y yet either, too. So it would be nice to finally finish them up. And then after that, of course, was Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Finally, they did the Gen 3 remakes almost to the day 12 years ago of when Ruby and Sapphire was first released. And to celebrate that occasion, I did the exact same order, stars I did for Ruby and Sapphire. Mudkip on Omega Ruby and Torchic on Alpha Sapphire. And that was really cool as well to go for that again. Especially since the stuff looked a little bit better than it did on X and Y. But of course, unfortunately, just like X and Y. I never beat those games either. I gotta get back to work on them too. And of course, the last game's now up to date with Sun and Moon. Yeah, I got the pre-ordered save day, and so I did if you remember, I did Litten on Sun, and on Moon I played as an OC Ayaka who picked Roll It on Moon. And as you saw recently, like a month ago almost, I beat Sun. I am gonna eventually do Moon for Ayaka. I have her all ready to go, but I just have not gotten the time to do it. Because remember, when I did my thing for Sun, it took like 45 minutes. Now, of course, I'm sure it's not gonna take as long for Ayaka, since I know everything what's gonna happen for teams and stuff now. But I just have not got the time to do it yet, unfortunately. Hopefully, it will be soon. But that was really good. Like, they fixed a lot of the problems, especially with me, and of course the I can't remember, helper Pokemon or whatever they're called. That made everything much more useful. No longer have to have someone that knows Dig or Surf and Strength and stuff like that. And of course, more options to like for clothes and hair and stuff like that. Although it would be nice if I had those options right from the fucking bat. Or better yet, let me pick from the very beginning with the character creation. And of course, would be nice if they actually did, you know, a male brunette, since I still have yet to get that option. But yeah, Sun and Moon, fantastic so far. I haven't even touched Sun once I beat the game. I gotta get back to it. And I still think to this day, Nintendo should have hold off Sun and Moon and put it, instead on the 3DS, they should have put it on the Switch. Because I think in total, Sun and Moon combined, this was like I think it was like a month after it was released, or maybe like 2 weeks. 2 weeks to a month after it was released. I think it sold like 7 million copies. Now think about that. Even if it was just half of the sales, even if it was just like half the people that had to get the Switch just for Sun and Moon, like they would get both games. That's like 3 million like in 2 weeks. That is like what the PS4 did when it fucking came out. So that would have been a tremendous start for the Switch. And I think Nintendo would have benefited greatly for the Switch if they did that. But of course, that requires having a brain, but they do not have that. So that was my history of Pokemon 2 in slightly over 17 years, or maybe even coming up to 17 years, since who knows, since I'm never going to remember exactly how I played. And it was fun telling you all about this, my history of the series too. And of course, hopefully a new game will be soon. And hopefully the rumor I've been hearing about a possible main series game for the Switch is true. Because that would be, one, very beneficial for the Switch. And two, that would be pretty cool if they did, because I heard rumors that it might be like a combination of a main series game plus Go. Which if they did that, that would make the disaster that was Go much, much more better. And of course, I am still working on a layout for a new Pokemon series too. I'm trying to get to finish it up soon. So hopefully soon, you all will be able to see it. So be on the lookout for that. And of course, don't forget to check out my 6 other series I'm doing right now too.